The way they click on certain UI is identifiable as a personality, which is fascinating.
I guess it's not just that it's a button. I think because the button has a musical element to it, it ends up being very expressive. So they are expressing themselves.
Look, you just really don't like the bassoon, Rachel. That's okay. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm Brendan Bradley with the Fifth Wall Forum, committed to bringing together industry insiders from the theater and technology worlds to create opportunities for new kinds of virtual performance. And today I'm having a conversation with Lafiya Watson Ramirez and Rachel Ho. Lafiya is a multidisciplinary artist and founder of Bad Chick Studios, and Rachel is a Singaporean performance maker based in Los Angeles. Today's conversation is brought to you by the Fifth Wall Forum Discord channel, a robust community of hundreds of technologists and artists sharing job postings, tutorials, upcoming performances, and the home of Artifact Friday, where our mentors and collaborators share artifacts from their work, giving Fifth Wall Forum members a first glimpse at the latest in innovation in immersive storytelling. Find out more at our website at fifthwallforum.com. That's 5thwallforum.com. And now let's get to the conversation. Welcome, Lafiya and Rachel.
Hi.
Hello.
How are y'all doing?
I'm lovely. I'm sure Rachel.
we speak for both of you.
Speaking for Rachel, apparently.
I feel like I've been transported into the future with that, warm welcome.
We are in the Matrix. What's actually fun about this is that this is the first one of these I've done with multiple people at the same time. So I'm excited to get more of a banter and dialogue going, or seeing if it just completely derails us. So we'll figure it out.
Whoa. Oh my God, we are the future. Have you seen the new Matrix website?
I have. Did you click both pills or just one of the pills?
I click the blue pill 3 times and the red pill 4 times.
Wait, if you click the pills multiple times, do you see different things?
You do.
What?
I didn't know
that's
that.
amazing. Amazing. Getting into that is very cool, but getting into your work, I want to start with the March reveal, and your Project Lookout really invited audiences to explore neglected spaces in their own communities. And especially as we're talking about these hybrid interactive experiences, whether it's clicking on different pills or going to different venues or non-traditional spaces, I just wanted to talk about what y'all thought about bringing the work outside, especially storytelling and narrative work outside of traditional theaters.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of what it's all about. I'm wondering how both of you are feeling now, several months out from the forum when we first met, and whether you're feeling like you do want to be getting outside even more now than you did then.
Outside?
I definitely do outside in the actual world. Yeah, no, I think even when we created this piece, obviously we were still deep in the pandemic and sort of kind of lockdown, but I was looking forward to the point where we could actually, be together and explore actual spaces and not virtual spaces again, or combine the two. That was what was so exciting for me about the piece, to be able to kind of merge the digital and physical worlds together.
When you talk about that merging, I feel like there's so many people right now, it's kind of the hot buzzy thing to create like a virtual twin of a venue, as to basically just try to replicate the physical in the virtual. But the work that y'all do, to my understanding, is create a whole other dimension to the existing physical space, not just try to mirror it.
Yeah, because I don't think that the two are, in a way, I don't think they are comparable. So it might be better to celebrate each for the ways that they cannot replicate the other. I was actually just talking to a friend yesterday, a friend of mine who is more in the physical theater clowning side of things, and she said she had the impression that working with tech was my thing, and I told her that actually isn't true. Like, years ago, when I first started working in multimedia performance, it was really just an excuse to get on the stage.
Yep, you have to build it.
Yeah. So, I was talking about it's to me, it's kind of always been an excuse to actually be connecting with people in person and be performing in my body in a place. And so to that extent, I'm in a place right now where I feel like the use of virtual worlds and digital media as a way to get you to go out to a place or experience a place in a more intense way is like exciting to me.
And what are those spaces that you think are currently underutilized in our communities, and what their potential is for storytelling, or at least socialization and interaction?
I'm curious about what it's like in New York for you, Lafiya, but here in LA, we still have a lot of theaters that haven't opened yet.
I'm, in Jersey, and I feel like in New York too, like I know Broadway is coming back and all of that. So I think things are starting to open, but I know that there are probably some smaller spaces that haven't fully returned, and could probably benefit from a project like this that, could bring people back, with this kind of hybrid of the digital and the physical. I don't know. I think when we did the project, theme park came to mind, this abandoned theme park came to mind, but we wanted the project to be flexible to utilize any space, any available space that you could tailor a story to. So I don't think we thought too hard about all of the different underutilized spaces in the community, because we hoped it could work for pretty much any of them, can scale up or down accordingly.
Right. I mean, something that I have noticed here in LA, I'm wondering what you've seen, Brendan. I feel like there are a lot of backyard shows that are happening kind of within different communities. And while theater spaces, I think some of them have started to open up, while others haven't, I've noticed that unlikely venues like taco stands and restaurants have started to use their spaces to host stand-ups, like open mics and things like that. Maybe as a way to bring in more people, or maybe because they've recognized that we have a indoor outdoor venue that could be good to offer space to people. And I think that's really cool.
Absolutely. No, I feel like traditionally New York space is very defined because the real estate is so precious. So like a rehearsal space is a rehearsal space, a performance space is a performance space. And there are still performances that have happened in, basements, broom closets, and bars. But I think in LA, I've seen so much incredible performance that has always been more associated with non-traditional venues. Just, I think because space in general is more spread out, and there is less of a capital T theater tradition in LA that I've been exposed to. It is more immersive. It is more site specific.
Yeah, I feel, obviously sleep no more, but other than that, I wasn't as aware of it. So I think now I'm starting to see more things like that in New York, but I think I'm also just more mindful of it than I had been in the past. So it's interesting to see what people put together and just how they transform non-traditional spaces.
What I love about the work that you all did together, but also work that you've done independently, is the utilization of augmented reality, specifically in the context that I think so many people primarily know it based on cool filters on social media like Snapchat and Instagram. And the more exciting, more dynamic and immersive and interactive components of AR, I'd love to just hear about how you first came to that medium and format and what you really see its potential growing towards.
I honestly, I keep thinking about this because I started kind of on this AR journey in 2018, and it was coming after just a long time of feeling very creatively stagnant. Back in the day, and Rachel's heard this, I'm always these days bringing up Flash and how huge of a fan of Flash I was. And I used it for a lot of my work, designing, building websites and creating art pieces. And I did my thesis in Flash. And so when that kind of died out, I was really looking for something that allowed me to create really cool, like multimedia pieces or games or, whatever it might be. So when I initially stumbled upon Unity and got excited about that, but I think it might have been Pokemon Go, honestly, that got me I mean, I'm just going to be honest. That got me kind of intrigued with augmented reality, and I started to do some testing in Unity, and it's kind of just my love for it has taken off from there. There's so much that you can do with it. Like I said, a lot of people do primarily know it through filters, and that's kind of how I explain it to people. But there's just a lot of possibilities with it, and I'm somebody who I love interaction. I love going to museums where you can touch things and they have cool, exhibits and things that pop up. So I feel like augmented reality brings that to any space, that you can take a space and kind of make it a little bit more interactive with AR. So that's partly why I love it so much.
Yeah. You're making me think about how I first started working with, I guess, mixed reality technologies. I don't have as much experience as you, Lafiya, working in AR, but I was introduced to this stuff when I took a motion capture class in school. I was studying experimental animation, and I actually took the class as a joke, just because I wanted to wear the mocap suit. But I found it so much, fun to be watching myself puppeteering, or just watching or puppeteering an avatar on screen. And I think that the connection with AR is having a digital extension of yourself helps you in a way come more into your body, or start to just be more playful with your body and what you're doing in a physical space. I guess it kind of brings out the child in you the way that an exhibition at a science museum does.
That.
A fun filter does it. Putting on a mocap suit does it. Yeah.
Do you find we've talked a little bit about the idea of using the technology to more creatively explore space, but the idea of exploring yourself in that space and being embodied in that space? Rachel, do you have any kind of insights into how you can actually turn that camera around and use the technology to express yourself differently in physical space?
I feel like that's my whole goal, or thing that I'm striving for, to kind of escape my own head in a way. Or I think about people who work in performance where they're trying to perform a task so intensely that they forget about being self-conscious. And I think that's kind of what I'm going for, to get to a place as a performer where I am no longer worrying about how I am actually acting, in an attempt to reach maybe what I think is a more authentic form of self.
That's fascinating. So almost through the inauthenticity of adding virtual layers that aren't there in the real authentic world, you are finding actually a more truer expression of self.
That's what I
beautiful.
I think that's what I actually am always kind of talking about, being playful and going back to a childlike state. I think that's what this whole time I've been trying to strive for personally, and what I love seeing unlocked in other people when I see them interact with this form of technology.
That's amazing. Lafiya, what does it unlock for you?
Oh, that's a very good question, and I feel like I'm not going to have that profound of an answer. I'm like, it's fun. No,
that is also allowed,
It is allowed, but it does not sound nearly as cool as, finding your inner self, and But I would say that she hit the nail on the head, I think, with that kind of childlike wonder of being in a science museum. I think that's what I was touching on when I say I love museums like that, just that exploration. And I think that's part of what I really like in my own work. And I think I've always loved multidisciplinary, or multimedia pieces. A lot of my work in the past has mixed writing and music and animation and the whole nine. So I love the idea of kind of storytelling using AR and all these other components to it to kind of, I don't know, yes, unlock fun. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
just being able to really explore a story and explore a space in a different way using AR is something that I'm really into.
well, we talked about that a lot when we started working together during the Fifth Wall Forum Connector event, Lafiya. I remember the first thing we kind of realized as a group was that we shared a similar passion for discovery and sharing the joy of discovery.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that I probably brought up was my love of Myst and games like that, where it really is just about exploring a space and uncovering clues and things like that. Like that, I feel like is kind of a foundation for me of I love escape rooms. So I think I bring that. I'm always searching for that, I guess, in other ways, and I try to utilize that in my own pieces. So yeah, that was definitely something that, as our full group, and then even when it kind of came down to me and Rachel, that we kept touching upon, that we wanted the piece to really be about exploration and surprise and wonder, and AR is great for that because you can uncover things that are invisible to the naked eye or to the real world, that using AR you can all of a sudden shine a light on something that may not be there. And I think that's always intriguing to me. I love stuff like that.
I'm hoping maybe you two can shine a light on something that I don't understand how anybody does, which is the two of you created an entire experience from opposite sides of the world. Rachel, I hear you were up at like 2 a.m. in Singapore while you were working on your reveal. And I'd love to just hear, I know this is the new normal of remote collaboration, but there are these weird best practices or workflows that we've all kind of found to get through it. And I'd love to hear about how you all found best practices to collaborate from opposite sides of the globe.
Rachel was a trooper, so that's all I'm gonna say. Because I mean, I was like, she was a trooper, and I don't know if we discovered best practices, but we made it happen. And we spent a lot of time just really sitting and talking, and which was really great to just talk about the piece, talk about what excited us about the piece, and just discussions, I think, kind of similar to this about what we want to get out of it, what our personal passions are, and how we can add it to the actual piece. And I'm thankfully, I'm a night owl, but she got the brunt of the nighttime meetings, but but we were both very flexible. And I think we just, especially in this time, you kind of have to be flexible and be open to kind of making it happen however it can happen. So I appreciate her for sure for going above and beyond to make it work.
Oh my goodness. So many nice things being said.
They are real. And I told you that at the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say that it was convenient and fortunate that we were both able to be very flexible during those months. And it's also a nice coincidence that we are both night owls.
Yes.
So we were able to meet at all kinds of strange hours. And it was very special to get that opportunity to just get to know Lafiya and connect one-on-one. Not everybody, I think, got the chance to do that. And we spent a lot of time just talking, the two of us, and that was really nice.
And have you kept that conversation going?
Not as consistently. That was our goal. Both of us, summer got away from us. But that was definitely something we discussed, is just to continue talking just in general, not even about specifically our project, but just about our passions and what we're doing, and see if there are any points that maybe we can collaborate again, because we both really enjoyed working with each other. And I think our interests overlap. We might have two two ends that are separate. She's definitely more performance based, but I think we find places where we coincide.
Yes, I agree. I feel like we are waiting for a good opportunity to get to work together in a more serious way. I do think it is quite difficult to be not in the same location, but we did get to meet in New York, which was really great.
Well, that's cool. How was that?
It was so nice. Thank you for coming out.
Of course, it was awesome. It was so, Rachel was in town during the Tribeca Film Festival because she was part of, talking about experimental theater in a unique space. I forgot the name of the space. You'll have more details, but I went to go see it, and it was her manning the ship with two performers in mocap suits, and it was really, really cool. So not only was it great to get to see her in her space and to see what she does, it was also just great to get to meet her in person.
Yeah, well, the most special thing I think was just like, getting to finally see you in person.
Yes.
Making those virtual connections real.
No, that's been the weirdest part is seeing people that you've only been seeing on a 2D screen for a year and then realizing they're taller or shorter or, just like, it's so interesting to share 3D space with somebody. That's very exciting. Can you talk a little bit about the piece that you had at Tribeca, Rachel?
It was at the Onyx studio. It's like a new incubator space, a collaboration between, I believe it is Onassis USA and New Museums Incubator.
Cool.
So kind of a new space. I think they're still kind of figuring out how they want to use it, but they had a little showcase of artist works there, and my collaborator Theo Chantafilides, his piece was invited to be presented there, but unfortunately he has not been able to return to the US in the pandemic, so I helped to bring the show there with the two other performers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was quite intense.
Yeah, that's so fascinating to like then become kind of the liaison for a show.
Yeah, talk about like working virtually with people separated. Like we've been still working on that show the whole past year and a half with him in Greece and me here in LA and, people all over the world.
Wow.
So it's not easy. I mean, that's what kind of, it's what pushed us to do virtual live stream shows, but that was the first show that we were able to do in person again, and it was like nice to finally perform for real humans.
Well, there's real humans on the other side of the screen. It's just you don't get to interact with them.
Right. I mean, I think
performing for cats.
Well, okay. I guess. Sorry. I'm like to be specific. I think like for the actors, I think it was quite a strange experience to be doing an hour-long show, and when it's over, they aren't even the ones looking at the stream feed, so they don't get to see audience members saying thank you,
right.
Or although we have like the audiences interact somewhat with the performers through kind of like a game master character, they don't get to do it directly. The craziest thing was that one of the shows we did was live streamed into a theater with real audience members. So across the world, there were actually people in a theater watching on a screen together and applauding at the end, but we didn't get to hear or see any of that.
Wow.
But we knew that we were being projected on a screen somewhere in a tiny theater in San Marino.
Wow.
It's like so much weird, I think, like mind warp kind of stuff where I'm looking at a screen and then I'm seeing a live stream, but I'm also on FaceTime with like people in the real venue, and I have like 3 different calls at the same time trying to coordinate just when are we gonna go like start the show.
Wow.
Can you talk a little bit about that as a performer and as kind of a hybrid performer, operator, producer, guide, house manager? What is that space to exist in where you have one foot in the narrative journey and the performance and with your fellow actors, but then you also have this kind of consideration of the entire machine behind transmitting and broadcasting the performance?
I think that because it's a live performance, it still helps that I at least understand that there is a place, like a point where we say start, go, and a start where we say curtain, close, end.
See
kind
the
of like
guardrails.
Yeah. So at least like with everything being chaotic and it being difficult to kind of coordinate when you have the director giving cues in one place, you know, and like someone in a different venue who's then saying the house is open, and then me in LA needing to then tell the rest of the performance team when we're starting. There's like what starts off as like a 1 second delay over Zoom ends up being like a 10-second delay,
right.
you know. It's hard to kind of like execute cues that way. I do think that the only reason why we could still kind of do the show is because most people were still in LA. Most people on the performance team were still in LA. But, you know, at least like there are certain parameters that you know you're working with. Like this is a live show, it's 60 minutes long. And we've within that found ways to try and, you know, work some interactivity. And then sometimes it works and sometimes it fails. But, you know, if this were something where it was a web-based experience and a blah, 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 you know, like I've not tried that, so I wouldn't really know how to coordinate that or like think about it kind of as something that doesn't have like a start and end.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You've both talked. Go for it.
No. I'm just curious what the both of you think. I mean, I guess because I'm drawn to live experience, it's helpful for me when I know we're going and we're ending. But I'm trying to think when I've liked engaging with something that maybe feels like this is a space that's open for a whole week and things are happening the whole week online and you can come in and out when you wish.
I haven't seen anything like that, but I'm sure there is. But I feel like the virtual theater that I've seen, whether VR or just something online, for the most part, has still kind of had a start and end, and you had to be there on time to make sure you were onboarded and things like that. So I feel like I personally still haven't seen too much where it was just kind of wandering in and out, you know, whenever you wanted to. But I'm sure people have played with that as well. I feel like the closest one, and I think Rachel, you were the one who told me about it, right? Was the orchestra, the Impossible Orchestra.
Yeah, right.
The Adjacent Impossible.
Mm-hmm.
That one I feel like felt the loosest, but it was awesome. It was, you know, such a really cool experience to, you know, virtually be connected to all of these people. And you all had to, for people who haven't seen it, you had participated in it. You got to pick from these different instruments and create a piece live with a bunch of other people that you're not seeing. And that one was a little more open-ended because one person after a while had to be the one to stop the entire orchestra, and it could happen at any time. So that is the only piece that I felt I've seen or been in, participated in so far that didn't seem to have a hard stop. But everything else,
it's an endless jam session.
It could be, yeah. It could go on for a long time, and just when somebody finally gets tired, they hit the end button, and that stops it. And that's
oh my God, I had such a funny. I did that show twice because I thought it was so awesome. But I also found it funny how even while I couldn't see, couldn't hear, barely knew anything about the other people I was jamming with, there was one very clear person that I felt I did not like.
Oh, wow.
That's hysterical.
What was it about them?
It was like there was this one person who just didn't seem to be able to understand timing or how to give space to other people. So when they would be invited in to click on their instrument, or when we were just in an open jam session, I could just like the way, like how and when they clicked on their instrument just really annoyed me.
That's fascinating.
That's so funny.
I love that. Like the way someone interacts with the tech is a version of personality.
Yeah, I could imagine what kind of, like, the same kind of person in a real life experience I could still feel on a web browser where the only thing you see are like plain icons and people are clicking on them. I'm trying to provide a bit of context if no one's seen or experienced this performance.
No, but that's so fascinating because like in VR performance, I feel like I've gotten to a place that it's so eerie that I can recognize the way someone uses the avatar is like, it's kind of like gait, or the way someone, like their body posture, like I can recognize different collaborators based off of how they use the hands or how they hold their headset on their face, you know, or how they kind of move through space becomes an expression of biometric, like that person's identity and that person's behavior. And it sounds like that's even more rudimentary of the way they click on certain UI is identifiable as a personality, which is fascinating.
I guess it's not just that it's a button. I think because the button has a musical element to it, it ends up being very expressive. So they are expressing themselves rhythmically.
Look, you just really don't like the bassoon, Rachel. That's okay.
That is also very possible.
That's what, all right, maybe it was that particular instrument. But yeah, it was. You did have to be very aware. And I was very conscious about that I you know, and I don't know if it's also because I come back from a musical family that I was like, I want to do it right.
You're being judged on your instrument selection.
I was just like, hey.
My parents will disown me.
Exactly. I can't rename, sticking to the Watson family name. But
I mean, the social experiment that I like the most for that performance was the creator leaving it up to the participants when they end and how they end. And I always feel like that's a thing that, like kind of gets you when you are, I don't know, like taking like an improv class with people or doing like viewpoints work, and you sense multiple endings, but nobody calls it,
right?
Or people just like keep on missing the opportunity to end it, and then you're like, crap, we have to go on for another 5 minutes to find a new ending, because now we have to build up again to something that feels like a crescendo. Yeah.
That's interesting. I think I'm always just, as a person, nervous about overstaying my welcome. So I think I was also just like, I don't want this to go on too long. And, so I was wondering if I was going to be the person to end it, if I felt like it was such a lovely experience. And I hope they bring it back. It was interesting. It was such a simple interface. It really was just buttons on a screen. You didn't see people. You didn't, there was no chat. You just heard one narrator kind of guiding you through. And we, got to choose our particular instruments, and it wasn't really even like a bassoon. It was like bird call and cloud and thunder, things like that. It was a little bit more kind of ethereal. And then we got to practice, and they talked to us about, when to kind of come in and when to not, and kind of when to feel what's right. And then they kind of just let us go for it. And then we get a recording of the piece after, so I can go back and listen to my time, or I can go back and listen to Rachel's and see if I can hear the person that drove her crazy.
Oh man, okay, well, yeah, right. I'll go dig through and see if I can find.
Yeah, no, I'm curious.
Well, actually, Brendan, I feel like I didn't quite answer your question very well. I guess just because there's like so much that I'm thinking about to address that it's difficult to address. But I think that I've heard you mention this before, or at least bring up a similar kind of idea. But I think that because there is no real precedent for how to perfectly coordinate or coordinate working in these hybridized mediums, that it just really is what works for that particular instance, that particular show.
Yeah, there's just no wrong answers.
Yeah, and I think that like, so for example with Antigone, having done the show several times virtually, you think that every time you do it that it's going to be the same, but it's always different because every festival or company has a different way that they like to do a live stream, or they have a, proprietary software that they want to use, and you end up having to adapt so many different ways. And sometimes someone will come in and say, oh yeah, can you just do this in VR, and actually you have to almost create a whole new piece, and people don't quite realize that. So yeah, it ends up just, I feel like it just ends up being like what makes the most sense in that moment.
Well, and to me, this really returns to the culture for me of theater, or the ritual of theater, in the sense that we don't go to see Hamlet. We go to see that production of Hamlet and what the choices that got made and the design and how those creators and collaborators decided to tell that story. And so in a lot of ways, I feel like what is so exciting about the work that's being done in these spaces is how much it is so dependent on that team at that moment using that tool and what came out of that particular collaboration. You're seeing the artist, not just the art.
Right. Yeah. I like how you put that, because I mean, talking about someone clicking a button expressing their personality, it's kind of almost as though all these technical decisions actually are very expressive, creative decisions.
Speaking of technical creative decisions or small little things that can affect big outcomes, is there something in your separate processes right now on your separate projects that you're looking to kind of overcome that next hurdle? A big thing we want to do on this podcast is use it to signal boost the work you're currently doing in any way that the community can support.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, that's very generous of you.
And that's a very hard answer. Ooh, goodness. Hold on 1 second. Sorry.
There are no wrong answers.
I know.
And there's no agenda to it. There may not be anything.
I'll admit that I feel like I've been really struggling throughout the pandemic to feel like I found my people. And I don't want to sound like I'm whining. I kind of feel like probably a lot of us feel oddly isolated, even though we probably all feel similarly isolated. So why don't we just come together? But I maybe it's more that I think it's so difficult to really find the right ensemble, I would say.
That resonates deeply with me. I don't think that that's an odd feeling at all.
I find it difficult to not be honest about where I am at emotionally, and it's like a real roller coaster, right?
Totally.
Yeah, sometimes I think that's the thing. It's like I feel like the challenge in life, and as a performer too, is how do you kind of feel convinced by what you're doing all the time?
Sure. That's a great quote.
Throw that one in there.
Yeah.
See, she's like, this is why she put together our presentation, because she knows how to like distill things very well.
Oh,
so
man.
Impressed by that. And I'm just
That's,
like, yeah.
That's very sweet of you to say, Lafiya, because on the other end, I would say that we wouldn't have a project if it wasn't for Lafiya, because I cannot do any of the like prototyping stuff.
Oh my goodness. And this is why we worked well together. We covered both ends of the spectrum.
So now we just need someone to throw a bunch of money at you both.
Yes.
I know. I think I would say, like, Brendan, like, I think that our issue is that I think we're almost too similarly in a position of being like independent artists who have the flexibility to work together, yet don't individually have the ability to take it to the next level or work on something a larger scale. And something I've been expressing for a while is my dream that I will be able to find a group of people where, because we have worked together to develop our own vocabulary as performers for a different age, where you both know how to work with technology and you know how to work with like people in a room, that you can devise work in a way that hasn't been devised before. And I'm trying to manifest that, but it's kind of a struggle to get that off the ground.
Can you speak at all more to that sense of isolation and how you've attempted to find your people?
I think it's because like you're talking about playing in a band, it's like I think what I love about being in class with people is that you come to really appreciate the ways in which they are unique and can bring their own expressive voice to the space. But I feel like without, sorry, I'm like kind of like going in a circle here. I think what I'm saying is that I really enjoy being in performance-based classes where you just come as you are with just like nothing but yourself and your body, and you improvise and work with other performers, and whatever comes out of that space is what comes out of that space, and that's the beauty of it. But to then bring in so many other things like layers of technology and devices and tools, that kind of becomes something else. And I would like to feel like I'm seeing spaces where people can kind of like improvise with expressive performance-based technologies in an open-ended way where everybody kind of like pushes the expressive form further, but without, I would say, the pressures of...
It's like a scrap exchange.
Having it work or... Yeah, like, but like, I think like I feel like, you kind of have to manifest it yourself. Because I think that access to working with more expensive tools is an issue.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I don't know, I feel like I know performers who will be curious about working more with tech, but, the barriers to starting to work with those are like high enough that they just wouldn't naturally do that.
Absolutely. I mean, I can speak from my experience of starting the lab at NYU, specifically geared towards trying to bring in new tools from real world working professionals to kind of say like, this is what we're playing with right now, and here's the real challenges in real time that we're coming up against, and letting the students be a part of the dialogue to just taking it at face value, not with any kind of product or outcome in mind, but just trying to explore.
Yeah, the context of school, I think, would be like what I'm asking for, basically.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that is the safety of academic.
That is the safety. It is.
Yeah. Which I guess that's what I may be saying, that it's like outside of kind of like institutional support, it's difficult to kind of get that thing going.
Lafiya, is there any sort of support you're looking for out in the world right now?
Not specifically. I think I'm starting to find my people, and I think that's awesome. So I'm definitely at a point where I'd love to collaborate with folks. And, I've been in talks, and, again, Rachel and I have had conversations about wanting to do that at certain points, and I've talked to a few other people about it. I feel like right now my journey is more personal. Like Rachel and I it was always interesting talking to her, because as you see, she's so profound and knows how to like explain what she knows how to break things down. And I feel like she's really good about talking about process and stuff. And that's something that I do struggle with, is just kind of really having to sit down and figure out process and storyboarding things. And so that's where I am now, is I'm working on being better about that. I'm working on a piece about my grandparents. That's going to be AR, I guess, mixed reality. It's going to be for a headset, the Project North Star headset, and just forcing myself to sit down and really kind of figure out the details of it have been really difficult for me. So yeah, I don't know if I need anything from the outside world. I think I just need to like look within and do what I got to do and just sit down and do it. Maybe somebody, helping me get to that point and be like, sit down and do what you got to do.
I'm always very mad when it doesn't write itself.
Yes. Like, why?
It's
why
very
is
frustrating.
This taking forever to come to be?
I leave the laptop open. I don't know why I can't just...
I have my pencils, I have my sketchbook. Like I just need to walk away, and it's just I come back and it's just ready to go. But yeah, so I think my journey and my struggles right now are just my own issues that I need to work through. But just I think like we were talking about before Rachel came on, just hearing about other people's projects is very inspiring, and it helps motivate me to keep pushing and to keep doing what I need to do. So, I think if anything, just continuing to hear about what folks are doing in this space and how far they're pushing all of this. It's so fascinating to me. And I'm glad to have discovered people who were doing it. Because when I first kind of got on this journey, I thought I'd be more, I initially said I wanted to do indie game development, and that was a wonderful community as well, but I didn't really feel like those were my people. I didn't really feel like I had fit in. And it wasn't until I got to participate in the MIT hackathon at the beginning of 2020 before it all shut down. I'm so thankful we got that in. I really looked around and I was like, okay, these are my people. Like this is the space that I'm supposed to be in. And so from that point on, it's been such a wonderful journey of just getting to know people and getting to see projects and getting to be inspired. So now I just have to sit down and do my own thing.
Well, I'm so delighted to have had the opportunity to participate with both of you in this conversation. And if folks out there want to get in touch with you because they think you're their people, how do they do that?
Yes. You can find me at badchickstudios.com on my website. And I'm also on Twitter and Instagram with the same handle, Bad Chick Studios.
Rachel, what about you?
You can find my website at rachelho.net, RACHELHO, or you can just follow me on Instagram. I'm Facebook, which is spelled like Facebook, but with a P. And I actually used that handle because I was trying to get Facebook when Instagram first started.
I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah, it's a bad joke. Yeah. So I went for the next letter, Facebook.
That's fantastic.
Hysterical.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you both so much for the conversation. And I look forward to following your work in the future.
Oh, thanks, Brandon.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for opening up space. Oh, crap. Is the call about to end?
It says it's about to end. So I guess that wow, look at that countdown. All right, well,
I know.
I'm so grateful to you guys. Thanks, Google.
Oh, man, that sucks.
Bye. Thanks so much to Lafiya and Rachel for the conversation. If you want to join me on the show, find me online at the handle Brendan A. Bradley or go to fifthwallforum.com to find out more. I'm Brendan Bradley wishing you a happy Friday, and I'll see you next time.